friends, welcome to Tarun. Today we will be discussing editorial from The Hindu, which is titled Food Day as Reminder to Leave No One Behind. Alright, we know that the Sustainable Development Goals 2030 says no poverty and no hunger. Sustainable Development Goal 2, no hunger. What do we mean by hunger? Does the hunger simply implies not going hungry to bed, or does it implies more than that? Like, if I am to define hunger, then it would be the affordability, accessibility and availability of food that not only fulfills the hunger of a person but also nourishes the body, its mental and physical well-being. Therefore, when it comes to this topic, this brings to a very important topic given in the syllabus of General Studies paper 3, that is issues of food security, and we are going to discuss here the issue of food security and what the writer suggests when it comes to ensuring food security to all. That means affordability, accessibility and availability of food to all at all times, which not only fulfill their basic requirement of the body but also nourishes their body so as to uplift or rejuvenate their mental and physical well-being. All right, so now let's talk about what does the writer says. So October 16, that means Sunday, yesterday, it was observed as the World Food Day. So in this context, the writer points towards certain depth of the situation that the world currently faces. The first thing that writer points towards is that the pandemic continues to undermine the food security. And it is not just pandemic, it is also the climate change, the food inflation, the conflict and inequality. In certain regions of the world, the conflict and inequality are on rise, and which was in fact pointed towards by the inequality report of 2021. The climate change, you can consider the IPCC report, and food inflation, which is rising, and food inflation is rising due to many reasons. There is climate change, there is war going on, the Russia-Ukraine war, which resulted into the rising inflation when it comes to the sunflower oil and soya bean, etc., etc. Pandemic-induced lockdown was a major crisis due to which the world suffered from food security. Writer gave certain data which was published in the Hunger Hotspot Outlook report, which is published by FAO and World Food Program. So both these organizations together, they published this report called Hunger Hotspot Outlook of 2022. Another report says that it points towards the escalating hunger, as over 205 million people across 45 countries will need emergency food assistance in order to survive. It also points towards that how today 828 million people worldwide, they do not have enough to eat. Over 50 million facing severe hunger. All right, so hunger has it has the one dimension is the availability, the second dimension is the accessibility, and the third dimension is the affordability. And when it comes to hunger, it not only about the food, it also about the nourishment. That means nutrition. So when we speak of the nutrition, the lack of nutrition would result into undernutrition. Alright, it will result into undernutrition, and which will be affecting the overall growth and development of the person. So this is the fact which the writer gives in order to substantiate his point regarding the need of food security, the need of food security and what can be done to ensure food security. That is affordability, availability and accessibility of food to all person at all times. All right. Now let's come to certain points which the writer has suggested. And the first point is that what is to be done. The writer talks about that in order to safeguard the food security, that means the only safeguard to end hunger by 2020 is through the collective and transformational action. By collective means the developed and least developed countries that together have to come in order to resolve this problem, and there is a need of transformational action. Now, what does the writer mean by transformational action? The writer talks about that the food from farm to consumer, the end consumer, it goes through various processes, and these processes would require transformation. The cropping would require transformation. That means the writer points towards that how we would be needing the climate resilient and climate adapting crops. So therefore there is a requirement of transforming the whole agricultural supply chain from farming to the end consumer. So this is what writer means by the transformational action in order to safeguard people from hunger, and in order to strengthen the agriculture food system, the better production, better nutrition and better environment for a better life. Writer says that India has been an inspiration in this regard, as India exported record agricultural export of $49.6 billion in the year 2021-22, which is a 20% increase from the year 2020 to 2021. So writer says that the agriculture food system should be able to support the rising population. If we consider the population of India, then India will surpass China as the most populous country in the year 2023, and its population will continue to rise until the year 2041, and after that it will start aging. All right. So this gap, which is also called as the demographic dividend, we need to ensure food security to all, especially during this gap. That means food system of India should be able to support the rising population. All right. Writer has given certain examples when it comes to the remarkable progress of India in ensuring food security. The first is the targeted PDS, which is public distribution system. India has a very robust public distribution system. In fact, it was because of this PDS and National Food Security Act of 2013 that we were able to overcome the challenges of food security posed by COVID-19 pandemic. So the first thing that writer points towards is the National Food Security Act of 2013 and the targeted PDS, targeted public distribution system, PM Poshan and ICDS, which is Integrated Child Development Scheme. All right. So these are certain facts which the writer has given. So basically, if we try to conclude the opinion of writer in this regard, is that writer wants to have food security. Writer wants to have food security, but he also suggests for a transformational approach. All right. So now writer has given a report by the International Monetary Fund in order to point towards the progress that India achieved, and the paper was titled Pandemic Poverty and Inequality. which had given evidence that India asserted that extreme poverty was maintained below 1% in 2020 due to the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. We remember that in the first phase of the lockdown in the year 2020, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana was launched so as to ensure the security to all people during the pandemic crisis. Another important point or a significant point that writer points towards is that India is going to assume G20 presidency from December 2022 to November 2023. All right. So writer says that during this 1 year of G20 presidency, India can bring food and nutrition security to the very center, that means to its agenda, to in order to ensure resilient and equitable future. Writer speaks about that how this sustainability or how the food security can be achieved. Writer has given many examples that needs to be worked upon so as to ensure the food security. The first thing that writer points towards is the soil sustainability. Soil is that important factor in the production of the food and production of crop. If soil is degraded or it is undergoing desertification, then it is naturally that the population cannot be supported on such a small piece of land. Alright, so if I am to consider the report by State of Environment 2019, which said that approximately 30% of the country's land is degraded. Therefore, in order to ensure food security, we must ensure soil sustainability. So another important concept arises from here is the land degradation neutrality. Alright, and the bond challenge which India has taken in order to reclaim and rejuvenate the degraded land. Another point that writer talks about is the diversification of crops. Writer has given specifically the example of millets, and writer also talks about that how millets are key to food security, are key to the future food security. In the year 2021, which was declared as the international, in which UN declared International Year of Millets. Alright, so writer has pointed towards the importance of the millet, and millets are not only climate smart, but they are also climate resilient crops. Therefore, what we need next is the climate smart cropping and climate smart agriculture and climate resilient crops. Alright, writer says that India is currently the world's leading producer of millets, and approximately 41% of the total production in the 2020 was done by India. The national government is also implementing a sub-mission on nutri-cereals as part of the National Food Security Mission, and there are certain state-level missions going on in the state of Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, which are testament to India's resolve to revive these indigenous crops. Alright. So, the writer has given example of Tejaswini program, which is currently undergoing or implemented in the state of Madhya Pradesh, that shows that how growing millets meant a 10 times increase in income of the farmer. If currently income of on an average, if a farmer earns approximately 10,000 per month, then it can be increased to 10 times. Alright, so writer has given example of a program being implemented in the state of Madhya Pradesh by International Fund for Agricultural Developments, that how growing millet would lead to 10 times increase in the income of the farmer. Alright, now in order to have a better food security, millet crops need to be grown because they are not impacted by the excessive rainfall, and they can also be grown in the dry regions. Alright, So writer has also given another example of a study by Food and Agriculture Organization, which spoke of the strengthening value chain in the agriculture, cropping and agricultural production, which will ultimately ensure the food security to all. All right. So basically, if I am to conclude this article, the writer has given certain examples that how the activities and initiatives which are undertaken by the government of India are not only benefiting India, but they are also setting an example, a role model which world can work upon, and certain best practices which can also be implemented in other regions which are suffering from the food security, which are suffering from the inavailability of the food at the right time to all people. And thus, in order to ensure that no one is left behind when we achieve sustainable development goal by the year 2030, food security is of utmost importance. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching Tarun IAS. Have a nice day.